Yeah, we have to talk about consequences of Boris Johnson's actions again. Because without his young advisor Charlotte Owen, Boris Johnson would probably have stumbled much sooner. And now he's putting her in the House of Lords for life at the taxpayer's expense. In Britain, some are now recognizing the need for reform. And shortly before the political summer break, the British House of Lords got a new member. This would usually not be worth mentioning if Charlotte Owen's appointment had not sparked a debate about who's actually sitting at taxpayers' expense and for how long. Owen is just 30, making her the youngest member of the House of Lords to be appointed for life. Baroness Owen of Elderly Edge, as she is known, owes her title to a certain Boris Johnson. The former Prime Minister had put her name on a special list. For the list of Prime Minister's resignation honours, outgoing heads of government are allowed to nominate those who, in their opinion, deserve an honour from the monarch. Most of them are long-time political companions, but not only. The fact that Owen's name ended up on the list caused a certain, let's say, astonishment in Westminster. After all, she had only worked as a special advisor for Johnson since 2021. When he had to fight for office in the Partygate affair, Owen was part of Operation Save Big Dog. Big Dog meant Bojo, of course. And Owen's job was to convince Tory MPs that there can only be one big dog. A few days ago, the Sunday Times quoted a member of the rescue team as saying that without Owen, Johnson would have disappeared from the stage much faster. She is super smart, extremely intelligent, and very popular with Conservative MPs. One of them, Caroline, Dinenage, called Owen probably one of the most effective people Boris had on his team. It looks like Johnson thanked her in his own way. He hoisted Charlotte Owen into the House of Lords, as did Ross Kemsell, another former advisor. Kemsell is only a year older than Owen, and together they will at least lower the average age in the House of Lords a little. Before the two were made members of the House of Lords, it was 71. Even if some lords welcome a rejuvenation of the venerable institution, there is now a debate in Great Britain about how up-to-date the House of Lords is at all. With a good 800 members, the House of Lords is the second largest parliamentary chamber in the world after China's People's Congress. Members receive up to £342, that means almost €400, as a daily flat rate. And no wonder that now, in times of high inflation, the question arises as to whether the many members of the upper house are really worth their money. There are enough reform proposals. Labour leader Keir Starmer wants to replace the House of Lords with a chamber of elected representatives of the British regions and nations. That would be like the second house here in Germany. Until the last far-reaching reform in 1999, the House of Lords consisted primarily of representatives of the hereditary nobility, and that has changed. Although there are still people there because of their ancestors, most members are now appointed because of their more or less comprehensible merits in politics and society. Just like Baroness Owen of Elderly Edge. The House of Lords Act 1999 was an act of the British Parliament reforming the House of Lords, and which still is the upper house of the British Parliament. The law eliminated the automatic inheritance rights of hereditary peers and created a new system of appointed life peers. The law also limited the House of Lords' power to block legislation. Reform of the House of Lords was a long-awaited change, and the House of Lords had long been criticized for not being democratically elected and for having too much legislative power. The 1999 law was an attempt to make the House of Lords more democratic and less powerful. The reform of the House of Lords was not without controversy. Some people argued that the House of Lords should be abolished rather than reformed, and others argued that the reform did not go far enough and the House of Lords still had too much power. But in a time of a government like Boris Johnson's, some others would argue that the House of Lords should not have been changed that way because they couldn't stop totally crazy international law-breaking laws anymore. But I'm criticizing Starmer a lot for his promises on Brexit. But if he is sincere on his change for the House of Lords, that would be a big improvement in British democracy, depending on the powers this second elected chamber would have. Here in Germany, because I mentioned it, that it would be similar to the German second chamber, it is that on everything that is not purely devolution stuff, that's with the states anyway, but that affects the states as well. They have to consent to laws, and if they don't, we have certain procedures there until they find a compromise or whatever. But they can stop laws. And those are representatives of the German states. We are not electing this house extra. The result, who is sitting in this house, comes from the state parliament elections. So the people still decide who is in the second chamber with their vote in the state parliament elections. And so there are elected members. And that would be a very good idea if Starmer does that, and if the second house would be powerful enough to stop laws that are affecting the nations and countries that have passed the House of Commons. So we will see what he means by that. But in general, I must say, for once, I do not have to criticize Starmer, because that would be a wise decision talking about democracy. And if you want to know more about UK politics or Brexit, the next video is here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.